Bloodborne is a dark and atmospheric action role-playing game set in the Gothic city of Yharnam. The player takes on the role of a hunter tasked with investigating the source of a mysterious plague that has ravaged the city. As the hunter delves deeper into Yharnam, they discover that the plague is linked to a dark and ancient ritual involving the blood of powerful beings known as Great Ones. Along the way, the hunter must battle a variety of terrifying creatures, from werewolves and beasts to cosmic horrors and eldritch abominations. As the story unfolds, the hunter learns more about the history and lore of Yharnam, and ultimately faces a choice between three possible endings, each with its own implications for the fate of the city and the world beyond. And that's a very simplified version of the story. If you want a more in-depth telling of the lore, go check out Vadi Vidya's video on the story. Now, an often overlooked aspect of this game is the music. More specifically, how the music tells us what the characters are thinking and feeling. So in this video, I'm going to break down 3 songs from the Bloodborne soundtrack and explain how each song tells the story of each character they represent. So if you like the video, please go ahead and do all that YouTube stuff below, and we're gonna get right into it. Ludwig was the first of many healing church hunters to come, many of whom were clerics. As it was, clerics transformed into the most hideous beasts. Under Ludwig's leadership, the healing church gained its own corps of hunters. Ludwig trained his hunters to be honorable Spartans and even trained ordinary Yharnamites, effectively uniting the populace and using it to combat the scourge. Ludwig wielded a mystical greatsword that he himself discovered, allowing him to channel the abyssal cosmos. He looked to the sword and the tiny beings of light that surrounded it for guidance, allowing him to empty his fears even in the middle of a hunt. It is implied the sword itself is sentient to some degree, which influenced Ludwig greatly. Despite seemingly being respected, Ludwig had his detractors, who appeared to have disagreed with his methods and did not appreciate his hunters. These detractors dismissed Ludwig as a beast-possessed degenerate, and he suffered much denigration at their hands. At some point, Ludwig succumbed to the bloodlust and mutated into a horrifying beast, a terrible cross between horse, wolf, and man. He was trapped in the hunter's nightmare and completely lost himself to the blood. He resided in the underground corpse pile where, by killing countless beasts and hunters in his blind rage, created the blood river which flows through the nightmare. Ludwig is the only character in the game to actually get 2 soundtracks for his boss fight. They were both edited together for the Bloodborne soundtrack, but this says a lot about his character during the fight. In his first phase, he's much more beast-like, and his title represents that as calling him Ludwig the Accursed. During his second phase, he's called Ludwig the Holy Blade, stating that his humanity is much more intact. This can even be seen within the game files. Serrated weapons, which do extra damage to beasts, work far more effectively to him in his first phase because the game classifies him as beast. But during the second phase, the game classifies him as a human, and the extra damage from the serrated weapons is taken away. He also stops screeching like a beast and grunts like a man when taking damage in his second phase. The music represents this change from beast to human in 2 ways, which are the key and the meter it's written in. In music, a key is a main group of pitches or notes that form the harmonic foundation of a piece of music. In simpler terms, the notes that a composer will use to write a song with. The main pitches used in a song are usually all from one particular scale, and this is where we name the song's key from. For example, if a song only uses the notes from the C major scale, which are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C, it's likely that the song is in the key of C major. Time signatures or meter signatures indicate how many beats are in each measure of a piece of music, as well as which note value is counted as the beat. Time signatures are located at the beginning of the staff after the clef and key signature. This will come into play later when we talk about Ludwig's second phase. The first song/part of Ludwig's theme is all over the place with key changes, going from D minor to B minor to F sharp minor. The constant key changing makes the first part of the song very erratic and unpredictable. Music like this generally keeps the listener on their toes because people subconsciously try to organize incoming information to make some sort of sense of it. With the constant shifting of the tonal center, it gets perceived as jarring and almost unnatural, which can create a sense of uneasiness. This is very in line with what Ludwig is in his first phase. He is a beast who has succumbed to the bloodlust and has turned into an unnatural monster. He's become unpredictable and erratic. This is heavily contrasted with the writing of the music for his second phase. The first difference for his second phase song would be that it has a persistent key signature for the entire piece, which is the key of E minor. This creates a sense of organization that we as the listeners can latch onto. This also says a lot about Ludwig. During this phase, he's considered more of a man rather than a beast. As As a man, he has more semblance of his mind. The music reflects this by not being as erratic with the key changes, creating a sense of reason behind it. The next difference is the time signature. In the first phase, the time signature is in 4/4 time. The second phase, the time signature is in 6/8. And this change is huge. The music is changing from a simple meter to a compound meter. Simple meter or simple time is when the beats of a piece of music can be divided into twos, whereas compound meter or compound time is when the beats divide into threes. So if we take a measure of 3/4, each quarter note can be broken down into 3 sets of 2 counts. Each count in this time signature has a strong beat, so we really feel the 3 counts. 6/8 has the same amount of eighth notes, but we group the notes into 2 sets of 3. This time signature is felt as 2 beats. So even though this meter has the same amount of beats as the previous 3/4 time, the way we feel the beat is different. From Software is really trying to drive home the fact that Ludwig is different in the second phase, from a wretched beast to more of the virtuous man he once was. The music emphasizes this change by changing the way we as a listener actually feel the rhythm of the music. So going from phase 1 to 2, the notes the music contains become less erratic and unpredictable, moving to a more centralized key signature, and the way we feel the rhythm of the music changes. This is all to reinforce Ludwig's changed mental state. Music is supposed to tell us what the characters are feeling without saying it. This is done perfectly for us to hear what's probably going through Ludwig's mind while the battle ensues, going from a beast back to the man he once was. After progressing past Ludwig, the player will eventually get to the Astral Clock Tower, which houses the next boss we'll talk about. According to both her equipment and her weapon, Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower was a citizen of Cainhurst and is a distant relative to Queen Annalise. She was also one of the first hunters to join the nightly hunt. She studied under Gerhman, the first hunter, who Maria had admired, unknowing of his curious mania towards her. Despite being a citizen of Cainhurst, where they all relish in extravagant uses of blood, she favored her Rakuyo, which instead required dexterity and skill to wield effectively. At some point during her time as a hunter, Maria partook in the excursion by Bergenworth scholars to the fishing hamlet, having learned of the mutations the villagers had undergone in the presence of Kos, a great one whose corpse had washed ashore near the village. The mission would take its toll on Maria's morals, as she, alongside the scholars and other hunters, had participated in the hunting and mutilation of the villagers, and the violation of Kos's body. It's unclear what Maria and the other hunters did to Kos's body, but it can be inferred that it was done to harvest the Great One's eldritch blood. Nonetheless, it was a sacrilegious act for which Maria and the other hunters involved would suffer for eternally as they became imprisoned in the hunter's nightmare. At some point, likely out of guilt for her actions at the fishing hamlet, Maria forfeited her beloved Rakuyo, tossing it down a well when she could, in quotes, no longer stomach it, supposedly killing herself as well. Her spirit was then pulled into the hunter's nightmare. Even after she disappeared, Gerhman remained obsessed with her. To keep himself company, Gerhman created a doll to Maria's likeness, faithful to the latter's appearance down to her height and facial features. However, Gerhman grew to be indifferent towards the doll, likely due to her lacking Maria's personality. Maria now resides in the Astral Clock Tower, looking after the disfigured patients that reside there and guarding the secret of the nightmare, the fishing hamlet, where the orphan of Kos can be found. She's posted here to prevent anyone from gaining access to the fishing hamlet, being driven by the guilt for what she and the other hunters did. The music for her fight not only tells us what is going through her mind as the player duels her, but also a lot about her lore. The key for her song is in the key of D minor. This might not mean much, but back in the 18th century, the keys of music were thought to embody certain characteristics. A lot of composers during this time, like Mozart and Beethoven, were keen to this idea. For example, if they wrote a song in the key of C major, they knew it would embody the characteristics of innocently happy or completely pure. Another example is the key of A flat major was thought to be the key of the grave or death. So what traits do the key of D minor contain? The key of D minor is described as serious, feminine, and melancholic. All of these traits perfectly embody Lady Maria. Her serious devotion is shown by the length she'll go to in an effort to stop the player from reaching the fishing hamlet. This is seen at the start of her phase 2. According to the lore, she couldn't stand using the blood magic from her Cainhurst lineage, but as the fight goes on, even those powers become fair game if it means stopping the player. So at the start of phase 2, she stabs herself with her Rakuyo to start using her blood magic. The music also becomes much more turbulent as the fight progresses, which says a lot about her psyche during the fight. The piece starts with a traditional ballroom-esque dance that radically gets more and more chaotic. The ballroom dance vibe from the music gives us some insight into her background, being of royal descent from Cainhurst. As the fight progresses and the music keeps spiraling, it becomes clear that Maria becomes much more desperate in her actions to prevent the player from reaching the fishing hamlet. The continuous indulgence of the blood magic that she so hated through each phase reflects this. Towards the end of the track, the key changes to A minor. Going off of the characteristics from before, A minor is described as tender, plaintive, and womanly, all traits that also capture the spirit of Maria. Tender can be shown with another part of her lore. The previous section of the game takes the player to the research hall, where the enemies are mutated patients. Some of the dialogue they say refers to Maria, because at one point she took care of the patients who were experimented on there.
Lady Maria, please take my hand. Please help me. Don't let me drown.
She offered them some sort of beacon of light in their dark times at the facility. This area is presumably the area where the Healing Church conducted experiments on humans in an attempt to create beings capable of communication with the Great Ones. She became the only light for them, but no matter how much she tried, it wasn't enough to take away the guilt from the act she committed in the fishing hamlet, which led to her depression. Plaintive and melancholy from the aforementioned D minor characteristics go hand in hand, as they both describe feelings of sadness. No matter what she did during her life, she couldn't outrun the sins she committed in the fishing hamlet. Saddened by this, she cast away her weapon and eventually took her own life. The translated lyrics from the Latin section of the song also offer more insight into what she was thinking during the fight. The first set of lyrics translate to deceived hunter, forced to feel evil, to feel grief, an act of violence and roving blasphemers, go out hunting, when asked to fight and die, wicked wraith, and the evil blood, evil blasphemers, an act of violence and roving blasphemers, go out hunting, when asked to fight and die, wicked wraith and evil blood, evil blasphemers. The second set of lyrics translate to hunter, how the secret beckons so sweetly, fearful death to you, I shall give you death. I shall give the sweet necessary death, a terrible death by my blood. Because of your wild curiosity, you forget. Because your wild curiosity, it makes you oblivious. I shall give the sweet necessary death. I shall give you my sweet blood. Because the wild curiosity in your heart makes you oblivious. A terrible death by my blood for you. Because your wild curiosity, it makes you oblivious. The first section of lyrics seem to be more in line with the fishing hamlet incident during her time as a hunter, talking about the blasphemous act committed on the fishing hamlet and how she felt evil and intense sadness while committing the acts. They also offer a point of speculation. This set of lyrics makes it seem like Maria was tricked or pushed into a position where she was forced to comply with the heinous acts of the fishing hamlet. The line, deceived hunter, backs this up. Also the line, forced to feel evil, forced to feel grief, reinforces this as well. This wouldn't be too out of the question from what we know about her backstory. The second set of lyrics seem to refer to her present moment of how she will never let you make it past her, no matter what the cost. Her story is a very tragic one, and the music contains plenty of layers to show the depth of her character. After her passing in the waking world, one character couldn't quite move on. At the start of the Beast Scourge, Gerhman was the first of the Yharnamites to take notice of the beasts and became the first hunter. His garb tells us by making adjustments to his everyday clothing and tools, Gerhman equipped himself to hunt the beasts. He became a well-known pioneer in the field of beast hunting, taking up responsibility as a teacher and weapon designer. One of his most prominent apprentices was a woman who is distantly related to Annalise, Queen of the Biobloods, the Rakuyu-wielding hunter, Lady Maria. Gerhman had a curious mania over Maria, which she was unaware of. As the plague spread and more people became aware of it, the church began sending out specially sanctioned hunters of their own, and even recruited civilians to join the hunt. Soon enough, Gerhman and his workshop became invalidated as the church set up a workshop of their own. Sometime after, Lady Maria went missing after the event at the fishing hamlet. Gerhman, in his grief, called upon a Great One to help him bring to life the doll, and with its assistance via a contract, created the Hunter's Dream. The doll, however, proved not to sate Gerhman's longing of Maria's return, and he soon became bitter of her presence. As the hunt dragged on and hundreds of hunters came and went, Gerhman realized he was bound to the dream and could never escape it. In his sleep, he pleads to Master Willem and Lawrence to free him from the dream.
Oh, Lawrence. Master Willem, somebody help me. Unshackle me, please. Anybody. I've had enough of this dream. The night blocks all sight. Oh, somebody, please.
Gerhman's track is very interesting in that it's a very stark contrast to the boss themes we have seen before. The tracks for Maria and Ludwig were very bombastic with lots of instruments, key changes, and stylistic changes throughout. Gerhman's track strips all of that away. His song stays in one key, which is the key of D minor, and features a string quintet and not a full orchestra. A string quintet is a group of stringed instruments typically featuring 2 violins, a viola, a cello, and a contrabass. By having a smaller group of instruments, a more intimate sound is created. His track is very reminiscent of something you might see in a cutscene for a very intense emotional moment, which says a lot about the severity of this fight. Before the fight, Gerhman offers the player 2 options: to submit their life and return to the waking world, or to refuse. If the player submits their life and returns to the waking world, Gerhman continues to be the overseer of the hunter's dream to guide other hunters. This is a difficult task he has taken on for himself with no escape. He wouldn't wish the fate on anyone else. But there is one way for him to escape. By refusing Gerhman's offer, you are giving him a way out of the dream. By taking Gerhman's life, you are setting him free. This fight isn't between 2 enemies. It's between 2 comrades who don't want to watch the other suffer. Killing Gerhman allows him a way out of the dream, but he doesn't want you to take his mantle, because if you do, it means overseeing the dream for all eternity like he did, and he'd rather take on this burden rather than you. His song reflects this perfectly by not being some epic battle track, but by being an intimate emotional track, showing the intense struggle of conflicting feelings within Gerhman. His way of thinking is even more reinforced by the translated lyrics from the Latin section of his song. The first set of lyrics translate to: Hunter, I have hunted. I did it all to cleanse my soul from evil. An insidious hunt, the wonderful darkness, or it could be translated as these mysterious nights. This way I knew eternal mercy, or also could be translated as eternal misery. The second set of lyrics translate to: My hunter, let the evil be hidden, my life devoted to sustaining the dream, the insidious moon, the wonderful darkness, or again could be translated as these mysterious nights. Great one, look upon me and grant eternal mercy, or it could be translated as, again, eternal misery. The third set of lyrics translate to: Hunter, take my sickly vein, my soul hurts, free me rightly, the insidious moon, the wonderful darkness, or again, mysterious nights. Great one, look upon me and grant eternal mercy, or again, eternal misery. The last set of lyrics translate to: Hunter, who hold in awe the abyss, but you are never supposed to be a scapegoat. I would swing this scythe once again to offer an end to your nightmare, but please give me an end to my rule. The translated lyrics make it very clear that Gerhman wants to be set free, but doesn't want the same fate for his successor. They also give a good summary of his story. The first set of lyrics refer to his time as a hunter, with the lines: I have hunted. I did it all to cleanse my soul from evil, and an insidious hunt. The lines from the second set, my hunter, let the evil be hidden, and my life devoted to sustaining the dream, seem to all be referring to the dream and his time as the player's guide. The third and fourth sets talk about the current moment. From the third set, the lyrics, take my sickly vein, and my soul hurts, free me rightly, all talk about his will to relinquish the role to you. The lyrics from the fourth set talk more about the bittersweet nature of the fight, with the lines, but you are never supposed to be a scapegoat. I would swing this scythe once again to offer an end to your nightmare, and, but please, give me an end to my role. He desperately wants his time to end as the guide of the hunter's dream, but would end the nightmare of the player over his anytime. Bloodborne is a game that is methodically thought out through each detail of the story and character development, with people still finding new discoveries in the Chalice dungeons or in cut content. There are tons of hidden gems and lore within the music, which is a great way to tell us what is going on without actually saying it. So it's no shock the music of Bloodborne contains a plethora of layers to it. If you made it this far, thanks for watching this deep dive analysis of the music from Bloodborne, and please subscribe for more content like this. And have a great day, and I'll catch you all on the next one.